just trying to figure out how to set this thing up so we could talk about today's hearing, guys. This is not working out. It's not working out. I think it should be good now. I have a stack of books to keep you guys in place. So, for those of you who have been keeping up, guys, there was a closed hearing today. Yes, there was a closed hearing. Everything seems to be behind closed doors in this very strange case. And we have to question that, and we're going to talk about what came out of today's hearing potentially, right? So, you guys complained about me streaming from the laptop, so I am streaming from the phone. I hope you guys can hear me. Please let me know in the chat if the comments are working. Is the chat working? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I hope you guys had a really good 3-day weekend. I had a lot of work to do. I'm actually very exhausted. I worked through the weekend. I'm tired, guys. I'm tired. I need a break. For those of you walking in, we're going to be talking about today's closed hearing, what likely went on behind closed doors. We are going to talk about the IGG because that is what was supposed to be talked about in this hearing, right? So I'm pulling up on the Idaho Judicial Cases of Interest page the notice of the hearing, which was regarding today, right? January 21st, 2025 at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And they did this hearing remotely, and they were talking about unsealing materials, right? We know that the defense has been trying to unseal this IgG DNA for the longest time. So why are they doing this hearing behind closed doors? I'm going to get to why, guys. It's highly questionable, and this is not just my opinion, right? I watched a short video of Vinny. I'm not a fan of Vinny, but he actually had people in his video today that were actually pretty unbiased, which is quite shocking. We know that this case has split people in either, we're called pro-burgers or guilters. And I'm like, can we just have common sense? But today's video is really refreshing. I'm like, thank goodness there are some people with common sense. And guys, this is not normal, right? One of the guys that Vinny was interviewing was David Leroy, and this is a trial lawyer. He's a former Idaho Attorney General. So he's been around the block a few times, and he himself said that this is not normal, that in his experience, he has never seen this much sealing. He said this was an extraordinary amount of sealing going on. So yeah, it's not just me, it's not just you thinking this. This is people, former Idaho Attorney General saying this. And on top of that, Vinny was also interviewing John Pryor, who is an attorney. You guys probably have heard of him because he represented Chad Daybell. And he also said the amount of sealing is highly unusual. And what is the chat doing? Let's see who's in here. Hi, Backwood Beats and Outlaw Rhythms. Oh my gosh, are you a musician? That sounds really cool. Hi, Big Plants Little City and Zyra, Big Mike, Kelly. Hello, Jody, Big Mike, Lori. Hi, Hoppers. Hi, Dawn. Welcome, guys. I hope you guys had an amazing 3-day weekend. Lorna, you are watching from Scotland. Oh my goodness. One day I'll have to come visit you. You can be my tour guide. So everything is sealed, including today's hearing, right? And we know, first of all, that this case has had tremendous amounts of publicity since the day we heard of it, right? And there have also been other cases, about 2 other cases in Idaho with similar amount of publicity. So it's going to be pretty normal for the courts to try to protect witnesses. We always want to protect any witnesses. We also want to seal evidence that could influence people, right? We know that, again, this case is very biased. They should have sealed things probably early on from the get-go, because they didn't, and that has caused a lot of bias, in my opinion, right? And at the end of the day, what we want is a jury that is unbiased, as unbiased as possible. That way, the defendant, in this case, Brian Kohberger, has a right to a fair trial, right? But in this case, guys, in this notice of hearing that I just read, it's not often that we see a defendant trying to unseal documents. Okay, this is a person that is usually worried about conviction, right? If you're the defendant, you're worried about conviction. If you committed the crime, you probably want things sealed, because then you don't want the jury to, this is not an animal, by the way. So many people have asked me, it's not a real fur, guys. The guy, if he committed this crime, he would probably want everything sealed. But in this case, we have him trying to unseal the IGG. I want to know, first of all, your guys' opinions on this, because we know that this is a public trial. So if it's a public trial, then just unseal everything. Again, of course, if there are names of witnesses, you could blur those out, right? We want to maintain their privacy and their safety, but it's a public trial. Therefore, why is the state the one that is trying to seal everything, right? And in this case, we have Brian saying, you know what? Hey, let the public see this. It is the public's right to know. Open this specific document involving the IGG, involving the DNA. Again, for people who believe he's guilty, why would he want that unsealed, right? If anything, you would want that sealed if you actually committed the crime. According to John Pryor and Dave Leroy, both Idaho lawyers, they're saying, they openly said it, guys, in this video with Vinny, that it's very likely that this was sealed because there could be potentially tampering of evidence, or chain of custody issues, or something embarrassing for law enforcement, or inappropriate work by law enforcement. And the fact that they openly said this, I'm like, here we are. That is the new year I wanted to start with. Like, this is how we should have started, right? With lawyers, Idaho lawyers, being straight up, being blunt in a channel such as Vinny's, saying, you know what? It's very likely that this document is sealed because LE effed something up. Something that is the only reason the Brian Kohberger is in jail right now. And we know that IGG, you cannot arrest somebody on the basis of IGG alone, because we know that they kind of had to reverse do their work, right? Meaning that they had that IGG from the sheath. They had this tip from the FBI, and they created this STR profile. But with that STR profile, you cannot use an STR profile to arrest somebody, right? Because the way the STR profile is created, it doesn't give you one specific person, because again, this work is done in reverse. What you end up getting is a list of potential people that have similar SNPs, right? Similar, we'll call them genetic fragments that match other people. So you might have a list of, I don't know, 100 people, 1,000 people, because you're getting ancestors. So this was the tip that the FBI gave to law enforcement, and they used this potentially to make an arrest. This is why Kohberger is trying to get this unsealed, because you know what? If, again, this is the only thing that they utilized to make this arrest, the law broke the law. right? They're doing things potentially in an illegal manner. Yes, that would be very embarrassing for law enforcement to have that pointed out. And let me tell you something, if there is a chain of custody issue, at least in my experience, when I am handling specimens in the laboratory and that chain of custody issue is not filled out to a T, to the second, signed, dated, witnesses, if everything is not in place, me or the other scientists that work with me, if that was not done right, we could end up in jail. Yeah, we could end up in jail. So in this case, if there is something missing, chain of custody, signatures, timestamps, dates, anything, that could potentially lead to suppression of the IgG. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand how IgG, what it is, how the SNPs and the STR profiles are created. So most people, when they hear IgG, they just assume that's it, that's the guy, not realizing that it could just be a massive list of ancestors, maybe even third, fourth, fifth generation people that were related potentially to not even Brian, but Brian's father, because we know that's the IgG they utilized. They utilized Brian's father, right? They found his DNA in the trash. And that alone, guys, could create some constitutional issues. Probably not for this case, because we know Idaho is just going to ignore it, right? They're trying to just focus on Kohberger, focus on the IDAHO4. But down the road, this could create some constitutional issues, because currently, if I kill somebody, or if I'm accused of killing somebody, and they decide to go into the trash to get my father's DNA, they are technically and potentially legally violating his privacy rights, right? They have no right really to go into his trash and test his DNA without his permission. So this is going to be something that is very likely argued years down the road. Again, probably we're not going to see that in this case. But if this IgG is suppressed, if this document becomes unsealed and we find out that LE did something fucked up, as we've had this gut feeling for a long time now, again, if there was nothing to hide, why is the state sealing it? Why is Brian Kohberger saying, show it to the world? Show the world the IgG. Show the world how you got the DNA. And they're sealing it. It's a little suspicious, right? If the IgG, if we find out that something was done illegally and the IgG ends up being suppressed, it's not going to be good, because that is really the only reason that Brian Kohberger is in jail. And sure, you could still have some circumstantial case, but it's going to be very hard to convince a jury that he did this without a reasonable doubt, because all that people are focused on at this moment is the IgG. So let's see the chat. Touch DNA, heck, you can't even use that in a military court. Might as well try solving the case with the magic 8-ball. Exactly, and I've said this since back in the day, backwood beats. I'm not sure if you're a veteran, but I am. And yeah, touch DNA isn't going to fly. In fact, most countries do not accept touch DNA because it's a little shady, right? And again, touch DNA, you can build a whole tree of family members, ancestors, multiple generations down the road. It doesn't mean that Brian Kohberger did it. It basically means the FBI gave law enforcement a huge list of people, and out of that entire list, they could have technically just picked one, the most convenient, or the one that would maybe make more sense because he was in the area, meaning in Moscow or Pullman, Washington, near the area of the crime, right? Zyra says, I would trust the magic one more. This whole DNA business is a bunch of BS. IgG led to Frank's hearing. My thoughts. And you are so right. Backwood Beat says, chain of custody, more like a game of Where's Waldo. Nobody knows where it went in this case. And we've seen the lack of intelligence, the lack of organization in this entire investigation, we saw it when we saw Brett Payne, who was the lead investigator in this case, being questioned by Ann Taylor, looking confused, not knowing how to answer, saying he didn't know where things were, things that he should know where they are at, right? Videos, footage of Brian Kohberger potentially outside of the cafe, doesn't know where things are. Then when we have Mary being questioned by Ann Taylor, he also seems very confused, is pointing fingers, saying that it's not his job, somebody else did it, this, and that. That should be very concerning to all of us, because when you have unintelligent police officers leading investigations where, by the way, somebody is being accused of killing 4 people and he could technically get the death penalty, and then we see that, it's like, how are we supposed to trust law enforcement? And then people wonder, well, why don't you trust law enforcement? Is it because you have an issue with authority? It's like, no, it's because you are stupid. So Isles of Shoal says backseat Bill can't hide anymore. Big Plants Little City said, give it a thumbs up, folks. Exactly. Give it a thumbs up. There's 65 of you in here. There should be 65 likes, because you're consuming this information. So I just wanted to talk about that. I think that on the 23rd, we're going to be hearing a little bit more about what went down in today's hearing behind the closed doors. I personally agree with the 2 lawyers, the 2 Idaho lawyers that I just mentioned, saying that this is extremely odd, extremely suspicious, extremely rare that everything is being sealed. And one of the few cases where we have the defense trying to unseal materials, because probably they're going to try to suppress evidence stemming from the use of this IgG DNA. So something to keep in mind if you still are one of the people that is 100% sure that Brian Kohberger committed this crime, right? So when is the next hearing? Let's see. It says the various motions set to be heard on January 23rd, which is on a Thursday, and the 24th will be open to the public either live or by video. So I'm hoping that we could kind of get together and maybe go through that video and see what happens. A lot of people are still believing that the suppression of DNA is going to happen. Therefore, if it is the fruit of the poisonous tree and Ann Taylor can prove that, or she can show that, that means that this case might not even go to trial, or it's going to be an even longer process, probably one with several appeals. We know these cases. We've already been here over 2 years, guys. Brian Kohberger has been sitting in jail for over 2 years already. And if he is able to appeal, don't think that he's going to just be free, because I know a lot of people out there don't understand this. They're like, why is he sitting in jail if he's innocent? Again, when you are caught up by the justice system, you can't just leave, right? If he has to go through the appeal process, he would probably do so from jail. And it's going to be a lot of years before he isn't in a tiny cell. It's a long time coming. It's drawing attention when I'm sure they are seeking the opposite. And it's drawing negative attention to the state, in my opinion, because again, if the state still has the same confidence that they had, or that they pretended to have when they first heard about this crime, saying that this was a clear-cut case, that this was their guy, why are you having to seal everything? What are you hiding? What is so embarrassing that law enforcement did that unsealing the IgG would make you guys look like a bunch of effing idiots? What is it? Too fast for fleas. Hello. I hope it's all going to be open where the guessing game will finally stop. Exactly. Again, this is a public trial. Therefore, publicize the documents. And I'm okay with them having to blur out some names, you know, if there are any witnesses that have to be protected. You can do that. But let's see how you got this IgG. Crime Time says, I will be there on Thursday and Friday. Oh, you are actually going to be there, like physically there? Cool. That's awesome. Taurus, babe, hi. She says, I feel this is not going to make it to trial, and it might not. We'll just have to wait and see. Part of me thinks that it's going to, just because the state has already spent so many resources, right? Money, time, two separate venues. There's a lot in this case, and the state usually doesn't just want to let it slip out of its hands. They're like, we have a lot of money and resources in this already. We're going to try to pin it on this guy. We're going to try to pin it no matter what. That's how I'm feeling at the moment. I have very little faith in law enforcement currently. I was not always this way. As you guys know, I was a veteran. I have friends, family, law enforcement. But how things are going, not just in Idaho, but across the country, it's very problematic. If you guys have kept up with all of the cops that have done so many illegal things currently, like Florida, the human trafficking, the drug dealing, everything that has been exposed this year and last year, a lot of corrupt law enforcement. So it just makes me wonder, what is so embarrassing in this document that the state won't unseal? We know the state is always going to try to protect law enforcement, even if it means that they are covering for corrupt cops. And we know that there are corrupt cops in Moscow, Idaho, because we've all heard of the Stickergate case. And if you haven't, then I urge you to go watch my early day videos where I talked about the Stickergate incident, right? And a lot of other officers that were trying to have sex with young girls, basically saying, if you give me some of that, then I won't give you a ticket. Talk about corrupt cops. At this point, we're all just hoping transparency shows up faster than my Wi-Fi signal. Same. Payne is in the hot seat. I think Payne has been in the hot seat. In my opinion, in that hearing where he's being questioned by Ann Taylor, he looked extremely uncomfortable to me. Like, I'm not a body language expert. My education is just in psychology, but he just looked very uncomfortable. It's like you can feel how uncomfortable he is through the freaking screen. So that alone is a red flag. Body language, in my opinion, is huge, right? I see there's a lot of you guys that are going to be there at the hearing on the 23rd and the 24th. That's amazing, guys. Let me know how it goes. Take pictures. Probably don't take pictures. But let me know how it goes. I'm always down to listening to what you experience. That would be so exciting. Steve G said from the very beginning that there might be some embarrassing or gross things mentioned. For sure, but this IgG analysis, I think, has to do with something embarrassing for law enforcement. So we shall see. Thank you guys for joining me in the chat. I do not have a lot of time today. I have to get back to work. Let me know, what do you think happened today behind closed doors? And hopefully we can get back together again soon. We need to cover these hearings that are happening. Crime Time says, oh, I'll take pictures. I am not shy. Payne became seriously uncomfortable once he realized that Anne had the text messages between. Yes. When she pulled those messages up, he looked a little nervous to me. I thought I saw a drop of sweat, like, doot, 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 doot. Was he sweating? Could see him, like, from his bald head, just started leaking. He started freaking leaking, right? So all that, I hope, comes to bite him in the ass. I personally wonder what else What else was he talking about to the FBI agent? Does it involve anything embarrassing for law enforcement? Is Brett Payne going to be fired? Is Mallory going to be fired? How did they get this weird cast report that looked like it was made by a 3-year-old? Mallory. Either way, guys, thank you for hanging with me in the chat. Have a wonderful day. Leave a like, leave a comment. Make sure that you're subscribed, right? We are here for you. I'm literally here for you guys because I want to keep you updated on this case. I know I'm not a lawyer, but it's nice to be able to get together as a family here and kind of discuss several points of views, right? So you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you. Thank you guys for joining me. Hi, Nikki. You made it. Hello. Hippler decides that IGG is open in court. All right, guys. Have a good